Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about seniors and bad ones. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what is an example of how a bad senior developer acts? So the short answer is that they are intimidating to juniors, they only care about their own work, and they take absolutely no responsibility in regards to knowledge sharing or things of this nature, and they pretty much just build things for themselves with only their own perspective in mind. So bad senior developers is one of, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily the worst thing that you can have in a company, but it is definitely one of the things that can, well, short of course being incompetent or not really knowing your stuff, because the problem is that that term senior, it is so damn easy to put that on your title and say that you're a senior. That doesn't necessarily mean that you write better code than a mid-level programmer, but it is easy to think that the person who has the title senior does actually do that. So that is something that definitely can happen. You might have a senior who isn't all that skilled, but you pay them and treat them as if they're much more advanced than they actually are. But what I would say that kind of goes for juniors and mid-levels and like every programmer. I mean, if they're bad at what they do, it's not a great thing. However, for a senior developer, apart from just being plain unskilled, having a bad attitude or being a lone wolf or being someone who is not especially sociable is a bigger crime, or a bigger, no, I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna stick with crime. It's a bigger crime than for most people. You see, a real senior developer is the sort of person that you hire in order to get results. They are not hired just to write code and then, oh yeah, you don't really know how to do this and you don't feel up to the task and so forth. No, you hire these people to make sure that the project is going to be a success. And if such an individual is intimidating or unsociable or something like that, it doesn't have to just be to juniors, to other stakeholders. If it's the sort of person that has poor communication skills that you don't like working with, this is going to cause a lot of problems, because basically the end goal of hiring a senior is so that you can hire more mid-level programmers or even junior programmers and have that senior kind of make up the difference, so that in the end of things it's actually cheaper for you, because it's not sustainable there's not that many companies who can sustain their entire business model on just having seniors, because that is how expensive the real seniors actually are. So if you have such an individual, it becomes very hard for you to actually gain all those benefits and all that work experience that a senior actually is supposed to have. I mean, the juniors, as an example, how are you going to train junior developers if they're afraid of the senior? I mean, most likely when they're coming into their first job or their second job or something like that, they are scared shitless just from the environment and having all of this anxiety and pressure on them to perform and do all of these things, right? And the idea is that you have a senior developer that actually helps accommodate this and helps them kind of get up to speed quicker, so that they actually become productive and, they start earning their keep a little bit quicker. But if they then have a senior who they're scared shitless of, odds are that that's just going to even worsen the situation, and they might actually take even longer, or I'm not going to say quit necessarily, but that could also be something that happens. I mean, if you think that a junior, even if they're in their mid-20s to early 30s, don't need the emotional confirmation of a senior, or that they don't look up to people that are truly senior and experts within their fields, you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. I have met many junior developers who are they're full-grown adults, and they still, in many ways, like a teenager looking at one of their idols, look at the real seniors and their skills and how fast they are and how good they are at answering questions and stuff like that. They really do look up to these people. So it's vital that this sort of person I mean, if you want to be really bad at this, then just be the sort of person that everybody hates working with. Other than that, having the mindset that you are an island, or working as just a lone wolf type of character, or some person that really doesn't, you're really only there to do your own thing, right? That is also something that is kind of pointless, because even if you're a senior developer, if you are working with the mindset that you are alone, or that you're not supposed to take part in the daily workings, then that means that all of your work experience is pointless. Almost, like, unless it's a linear return on investment, and that's not why you hire a senior. You want an exponential return on investment for that type of money that you're paying such an individual. And if you then have a senior that basically just works as any mid-level or junior developer, just focusing on your own thing, and you need to be told every single little thing, and you don't look out for improvements, or you don't look out for issues and problems that are going to come around the corner, so that you can warn and inform stakeholders. I mean, because your experience level is at least, if not even higher than at the level that rivals your managers. The odds are that you have managers that may or may not be as experienced as you are, which means that, I mean, they are not technical people. They kind of depend on you to spot these sorts of things and inform them. Otherwise, you're going to have this weird working structure where you work, and then you hit a wall, or some big issue, or some big unforeseen thing that you as the senior should have seen many times before, and then you have to work around it or hack it, and then that increases legacy and delays and shit like that, and then you work, hit another wall, work, hit another wall, and so forth and so forth. You, as this, like, if you're a good senior, you should be able to help out with this sort of issue. If you're a bad senior, you don't give a fuck. And if a company it's so hard to deal with that, because technically you could claim that, oh, this is not your responsibility, but that makes you a really shitty senior in my world. You have tons of years of work experience, and you know all of these things, but you seem to not care. They seem to not care enough to actually share that knowledge. And then lastly, you write code as if it's only you who is going to partake in it. You don't share your domain knowledge or anything like that. That's also something that is absolutely horrible, where a senior developer in a company, they may or may not know most of the system. They might know large parts or the entire system, and if you have people who are less experienced, or people who don't know as much, and you just kind of churn, like, you're this lone wolf type of thing that just doesn't care about anybody else, and you don't share and try to help out and answering questions and stuff like that, everybody else kind of works in the dark. And the thing is, most of the code likely you have written. That's why you know the code. So if you have written all this code, and all you really do is that you get angry with people if they fuck your code up, or they don't know any better, and you kind of just you're pessimistic, and you go, on a rant, or you start bashing people because they don't write things in the way it should be written. I mean, all these things that a good senior can prevent. If you wrote the code, then you can help out and make sure that people understand the ideas that you had and the reason why you wrote it that way. But as I said, a bad senior won't care, and that means that there's an inconsistency, and like everything gets out of sync because you may have written things in a complicated way. That's also something that you may fall victim to when you're a really bad senior, or other people at least. A senior might, it's the burden of knowledge, right? Or the curse of knowledge. You know all the things, so to you everything is simple, and then you write things in a way that makes perfect sense to you, but you lack the ability to see what's simple to other people, and then you don't knowledge share, so that they don't even know what's going on. So they kind of you delay everybody else, and they have to sit and guess, and best case scenario, they can reverse engineer the stuff that you wrote and kind of get it right. Worst case scenario, they're gonna fuck up the code. And this is such a destructive thing to have when you're working with a senior, especially the sort of person who has the sort of influence to actually make other people doubt themselves. Because a real senior, a bad one, I mean, if you wrote most of the code and you know all the things, then anything that you do, anything you say is more or less going to have quite a lot of weight. So I mean, having a bad senior, I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world for a company, but it's fucking bad. It's like having a cancer. It's a really bad thing. They can fuck up so many things in so many areas. So what I want you to take away from this is that bad seniors are really dangerous for a company, mostly because they are their word weighs heavy. They have the experience and the expertise to really carry themselves in a conversation, but they might have a very destructive impact on the company. The first thing that they can do really, really poorly is that they're aggressive or unfriendly or not accommodating for junior developers and stuff like that. That's just going to slow everybody down, and it's going to make it harder for stakeholders to get information. Like, they're kind of lone wolf type of characters, and that's very, very dangerous, super dangerous. The second thing that can happen is that they just kind of keep to themselves, or they don't really knowledge share or anything like that. And thirdly, they basically write code as if they are the only ones who are going to maintain this, which is also a really, really bad thing, especially when you're a senior and you might actually have such extensive knowledge that you could write more advanced code. And the problem with advanced code is that some people don't get what's going on, and that's not their fault, because they're not hired to be at the level that the senior is. They're hired to be a mid-level or a junior programmer, but they're still there to do a job. And a bad senior will ignore all of that and just basically get angry at people for not being at their skill level. And yeah, if you find such an individual in your company, try your best to get that person out of there, or talk to them or something like that, because as I said, this is like having a cancer for a company. Have a great day.